Robert Plank Show episode 159. Use dreams to achieve breakthroughs. Find guidance, understanding, confidence, and business success with Amy Coelho. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show, where we talk about making money and just being the best person we can be. And our guest today is a dreamer, an author, a speaker, Amy Coelho. She's going to be talking to us about spiritual dream interpretation, and she is the wife of Robert Coelho and a mother of 11 children, a respected author, teacher, and successful business owner with 20 years experience in the legal field. She is currently filming the show Journey into Your Dreams. So Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad that you're here. So just to kind of kick us off, I have two quick questions for you, but I think they're easy questions. The first question is, why are dreams so important for us? And the second question is, what makes you stand out as opposed to anyone else who does this kind of dream interpretation stuff?
Well, they're important because, I've been teaching on dreams for well over a decade. I've traveled internationally. I've studied every culture out there. I've studied the psychology of dream interpretation, the Jungian and Freudian understanding, and I've also studied the Torah, the Hebraic understanding, and everything in between, right? So, because I really wanted to hone in and grab on what is this? And so probably about, I've always been a dreamer, and of course everybody's a dreamer, right? But one time I had a dream that was so specific, and it actually came to pass. And it tripped me out, right? So I was like, wait a minute, there's got to be something to this. So I kind of honed in on that, and then when I realized, wait a minute, I can interpret dreams. It's this parabolic language, this hidden veiled language, right? And so I kind of dove into this whole study and culture, and I come from the corporate world, right? So I'm more analytical. I've been in law for 24 years and ran my own company for a number of years, and so it was kind of like an odd change for me to move from corporate over to spiritual understanding. And I think that's what makes me different is that I combine the two. And a lot of corporate people either teach from a corporate aspect or spiritual people teach from a spiritual aspect. But very rarely do you find that place in the market where it's both. And we are starting to see kind of this uprise of people in the corporate world saying, hey, there's something bigger out there, and how do I, take my spiritualism and bring it into what I do every single day, right? And so dreams are important because they give divine guidance and divine wisdom, and they will actually give you very specific information on what to do next, and they will guide you. And so I run a mentorship group, and of corporate people, right? And so the mentorship group is called Dream to Launch, and it's basically about getting your dream assignment, product, service, invention, right? And, bringing that to a place where you launch it, putting an action plan to those dreams. And I'll give you an example. It's so interesting because just about 3 nights ago, I had this dream where it was very, very specific and very clear. I was directed to do an info product on the fruit of the Spirit, which basically means, how do we walk in love, peace, joy, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self-control? And how do we stay in that and not, drive home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the evening, and then somebody cuts us off and we, throw them the finger and start cussing, right? So how do we stay in that so that we can hear revelatory information? Because the moment you step out of that peace, love, joy, the moment you step out of that, you don't hear anything, really. You're just like fair game, right? To lack of control, chaos, stuff like that. So in the dream, I was given this dream, and it was a very specific 9-week info product to sell. And in the dream, I was writing the introduction, and the dream told me, God told me to circle the introduction around perfect love casts out all fear. So I woke up and I'm like, okay, that's the next info product, right? And so here we go. How can I lose? right? And I think that's why it's important is because we have a group of people that are experiencing just that thing, just exactly what I mentioned. Maybe they're creating a service. Maybe God's telling them to market to a certain audience. Maybe He's honing in on a target audience for them. And so dreams are not so much about, we think dreams are this weird kind of, pink flying elephant kind of dreams that we just don't know what to do with. And until we hone in and start reading our dreams and learning how to interpret the symbols, the veiled language, there's so much more out there that we're not tapping into as entrepreneurs.
And I mean, yeah, like all of that just kind of starts getting my brain almost lit on fire just thinking
Yeah,
about all the ways that I guess that life can be easier and life can actually have meaning because
yeah,
you've spent 20 years in the legal field and we all know that stereotype, or we've all experienced some of that. I don't know, like losing your soul to the corporateness of it
yeah,
and just
right.
working those
Selling
long
your soul to
hours
the
and
devil.
yeah, and just
Yeah,
getting through the day and just having some more caffeine and putting in
yeah,
those long hours and all nighters and especially like the
yeah,
last month or so for me, Amy, is I've just been very aware of like the importance of that self-care and that self-reflection and
yeah,
waking up
yeah,
early and having the quiet time and going on all these long walks and just it's helped so much just to reduce the stress and at the same time sort of
yeah,
like you mentioned before is to not become like the person that meditates 8 hours a day or only
yeah.
eats
Become a
all
monk,
all
right?
all vegan food. Like there's definitely a way to have your cake and eat it too, it sounds like, where you can be the best self you can be fulfilled, be productive, but then also have these tools and also tap into your dreams to solve the
Yeah.
problems in your waking life, it
Yes.
sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I said you can either, there's a balance between hugging a tree and hugging a pencil, and so
Nice.
we come to that balance. And what I found and what I teach my mentorship group is that, you have got to hone in because if you don't, as an entrepreneur, you and I both know you will cast seed everywhere all day long, right? Because you're just spinning wheels. What will hit? And if not this, then this, and if not this, then this. And then you spend all your time building this product, and yet now you don't know how to market it. And so entrepreneurs struggle with having to be their accountant, their marketing department, their writing department, their video department, their right. And so as entrepreneurs, we kind of like to hone in on what we are good at, and then fail to do the other part. Well, guess what? God can be your business partner. So, you know, if we listen and we tap into that, the direction that we hone in on, I could have gotten up that day from that dream and thought, oh, whatever, and, gone and, did some filming on whatever it is I was doing, instead of going, you know what, I'm going to tap into this, that dream. I'm going to follow this dream out.
So
And, as I begin to follow that dream out, it's going to save time. It's going to save energy. It's going to bring peace because what you're doing is, locking arms with the spirit realm. And how do we lose, right?
right, I mean, just try it and see what happens. So as you're explaining this, it kind of just makes me think that, well, I don't know. I wish I could remember more dreams, and I wish that my dreams were as specific as what you
Yeah.
described, where a dream said,
Right.
specifically make this 9 part info product. So, is there a
Uh-huh.
secret? Is there a secret to, I mean, just even remembering dreams? Because, like, I know that I have them because some days I'll wake up and I'll be in a good mood for whatever reason, or I'll have some kind of like random thought in my head or some kind of problem that I hadn't had solved when I went to bed, and I wake up and now I kind of figured it out. So I know I have dreams, but I would say that I only remember maybe one dream a year, and usually it's something weird, and I'll remember that thing, and I'll go to like a dream dictionary, or I'll do a Google search, and I'll search, like I dreamt about,
Mhm.
eating steak, or I'll
Mhm.
dream that, some kind of person was, arguing with me. And so I've heard about like that part, and I've heard about things like, have a dream journal next to your bed. And I did that, but I couldn't remember anything to write down in the journal. And I've heard about things like, play some kind of, hypnosis video, or say some kind of mantra before beds. And I've tried all these different things, but no matter what I do, I'm not able to remember dreams on a consistent basis. So, is there a secret to remembering more?
It's not really a secret, and a few things that you just said are what we recommend. And one of the things that I recommend is just getting all of the electronics out of your room. And we spend so much time looking, going to bed as we're thumbing through whatever it is on our phone, right? And
Oh
so,
yeah.
that's energy. Well, dreams are energy, right? Because God is light, right? And light is energy. And so, here's this, fight. We have a false energy, which is our electronics, EMS, and stuff like that. And so we tell people, get all that out of your room, prepare a place, to hear, open the dream journal next to your bed. And here's what I tell people: if you do it consistently, and what I mean is, don't go, oh, I tried that. No, what I mean is, give your heart permission to dream again. And like you said, I said all the mantras or whatever. Yeah, you say, I believe that my dreams contain a valid message from God, and I'm going to pay attention to my dreams. You may have to do this for as long as you have failed to pay attention, right? So you just keep sewing into that, and even if you wake up and you just remember writing on a piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to write that in my dream journal. Writing on a piece of paper. Why? Because why do we write it down? Because when we're writing, there's a scientific evidence that says that when you scribe, when you write, that you're actually writing on your heart. And your heart has memory. And so we tell people, write in your dream journal, even if it's just a little bit, maybe a glimpse of something, or maybe you just feel something, and you write that down in your journal. You've got to pick the time, because as entrepreneurs, man, we are so passionate. We'll get up and go, oh, that was weird, and shake the dust off our feet, get our coffee, and head out to whatever we're doing, right? We're busy. We're busy, busy, busy. But when we take that quiet time and we take those walks and we ponder and meditate on what I call the night season, the ministry of the night season, and we enter into that place, we give our heart permission to dream again. And when you start opening up your dream life, you start writing it down, it starts to come little by little. Because here's the thing, God's going to speak to you anyway. He'll speak to you through dire situations. He's going to get your attention. I would just rather it be at night and me in my quiet time versus a tragic situation, right? And so, take that time to meditate, make those declarations, get all the electronics out of your room, pay attention to what you're feeding off of, right? So if I'm watching like crime, murder mysteries before bed, clearly I am setting myself up for something that I, don't want. And so I make it a habit, just, make sure that I'm eating on things that are fruitful for my life. And the dreams come, they do come. You have to be faithful on your end to continue writing them down, even if it's just a little bit, even if you're just journaling your feelings of what you thought when you were sleeping. And here's the deal. I can tell you, and when I go speak at places, I can tell where a person is spiritually, the depth of the level of spirituality based on their dream. And when you're just starting to dream, pay attention to those twilight dreams. They're the ones that happen like 5 minutes before you wake up. Those are very, very powerful dreams. If you're on a Sunday afternoon, eat some lunch and set your alarm, go to take a nap and set set it for about an hour, and you will wake up in the middle of a dream. And you've got to practice and you got to practice dreaming. It's a gift. It's an art form. And when you do that, go ahead and hone in. And when you hone in, it's like the, God, the universe, the great light, whatever you call this thing that's bigger than you, pulling you into your path of destiny, right, is going to meet you where you're at. But you can't just try it out. We're entrepreneurs. We'll bounce, right?
Right. We'll get distracted. So what you're saying is instead of treating it like a hobby, it needs to be something that maybe you
Yeah.
dedicate yourself to. And what you're telling me is like a quick boost or a quick fix, first of all, is to remove electronics from the
Yeah.
bedroom, and to not look at any screens for maybe a while before going to bed. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it might, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. That maybe I have to decide I'm going to spend the next 30 nights, the next 90 nights,
Yeah.
just repeating this
Yes.
thing over and over. And the best thing about all that, what you said, is that at first it might just be a sentence. It might just be two
Yep.
sentences. And as that repeats more and more, as I kind of build up this skill, and
Yes.
it's kind of weird to think of remembering your
Mhm.
dreams as a skill, but the way that you're
It is
describing
a
it
skill.
sounds exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And here's the great part. They become more and more specific to where it's not always very symbolic, but very direct, like it was with me. And I was just talking to a counselor before we got on the show, and we were talking about one of our clients and how she had a dream about this certain client maybe a week before, and in the dream, the client was very resistant to something that she was at the client's house swimming in their pool, right? And the client came out and was very resistant to her. Now, this client and the counselor have been together for many years, and it has never been a real problem. But water represents spirit, right? And so she was swimming in the water. So there was something that the counselor was going to bring to the next session that was spiritual that the client was going to resist, which was unusual because that's not that client's typical behavior. So she kind of didn't have a grid for it until the very next session. There was resistance. So she was already prepared for it. So she was able to say, listen, I understand you're resisting this because it's spiritual. And I understand all of your thought processes on that. But can you just trust the process and bring your guard down so that we can test this theory out? And she was already prepared for that based on, just what she does for a living, right? And so it gets very specific. The more you do this, the guidance becomes very clear, and your dreams go from being pink flying elephants to write this info product. And it's going to be a 9-week course, and here's the introduction, right?
Nice. I mean, yeah, like that is the goal. I mean, if I could get my dreams that specific, then that's what I want. And I mean, as you're describing all this, I mean, you're talking about, like God and the spiritual stuff. And I mean, I'm not super religious, but lately I've just realized that, well, whether I fully believe in it or not, or whether I believe it's, like a divine entity, or I'm tapping into whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
I realize that as I'm sitting at my desk, or I'm walking, or I'm driving my car, or whatever, I mean, I can only
Yeah.
really focus on maybe 4 or 5 things at once. And then there's this, subconscious mind that it's just this
Yeah.
this huge computer. And I mean, if we knew everything our subconscious was thinking, it would be like a fire hose of information. So it's like
Right.
it's like
Right.
but if we're locked out of it, then that's not good either. So I mean, this seems like a skill
Exactly.
that everyone needs to pay very close attention to. And as we get our dream skill built up and we get into the more advanced stuff, do you know much about lucid dreaming, or do you have any advice about really going into the power zone with
Yes.
that?
Right. So lucid dreaming is a gift, right? And so I have found that either people naturally can do it, and they've been doing it since they were young, but there's also a place where you can practice the gift of lucid dreaming. And it takes practice. It takes a while. I've known people who just do it on a regular basis. And I'll give you an example of someone in our group who was practicing lucid dreaming. So the woman was not typically a lucid dreamer, but she came home. It was a Sunday afternoon. She had been at a restaurant with some friends. She comes home. She takes a nap. Well, her daughter's 17. She's out there. She's doing her thing on a Sunday afternoon. And in the dream, she had she saw a car crossing an intersection and it got hit on the driver's side door, and she realized it was her daughter's car, and that the police, in the dream, the police came to her house and knocked on the door, and she woke up in a panic, really. Well, she said, she of course texted her daughter, and she's like, "Where are you? What are you doing?" And the daughter's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm about to leave." And, and she's like, "Okay, well, just be careful and, probably need to come home." Well, she goes back to sleep, right? Because she's practicing lucid dreaming. This is she's very involved in dreams, right? So she goes back to sleep and she goes right back into the dream. Just like, we do when we're dreaming, we get up, we go to the bathroom, we come back and we go right back into the dream, right? When you do that, that's the first level of being able to lucid dream. That's level number one. She goes back into the dream, and she recognizes she's dreaming, which is what lucid dreaming is. You are in the dream, and you are aware that you're asleep, and you're in the dream. And she is able to change the scene. She has the dream completely over again, but this time, it hits on, the car still gets hit, but it hits on the back end of it, right? Not the driver's side. And sure enough, if she does not wake up again from that dream, and her daughter was in a car accident, and it hit on the back end of that car.
Whoa.
Now, you and I can say, well, why didn't you dream that she didn't get in the car and get in an accident in the first place? I mean, if you're lucid dreaming, those are different steps of lucid dreaming. You're able to go in and change those dreams. I tell people all the time, well, they tell me, and you have this dream that it's a reoccurring dream that happens all the time, that someone's chasing me, and I'm running and I'm running, and I just can't get away. I'm running through molasses. And a lot of times we say, okay, go back when you have the dream again, recognize you're dreaming. And when you do, turn around to the pursuer and tell them to stop. Or we'll tell people, turn around to the pursuer and ask them what they want from you. That's even, greater. And so that's the next level of dreaming, right? Being able to communicate with whatever it is that you're having this reoccurring dream. And reoccurring dreams are very, very common. Reoccurring dreams are like God with a megaphone going, hey, we can't take you to the next level of success and abundance until we deal with this issue right here. And reoccurring dreams is generally the issue you have, that core issue you have in your life. And I'll give you an example. Mine is running, I'm running and I'm being chased and I'm running through molasses. Well, that core issue is striving. I'm an entrepreneur. We strive. That's what we do, right? Until we learn not to. And, if I'm not careful, I'll kick open doors because, I'm educated, I'm talented, I know what I'm doing. And I'll kick open doors that were never meant to be opened. And then, a year later, I'm spinning out of control because it wasn't a door that God was opening for me. But because of my striving, I can kick that door open and go do it anyway. And so when I have that dream, I can recognize, I look around and go, okay, Amy, what are you striving? What door are you trying to kick open that you're not supposed to walk through, right? And those are why we have reoccurring dreams.
Interesting. So it's like our subconscious's subtle way of telling us, well, if you don't deal with this problem soon, then it'll be worse, or this is a thing that you've been ignoring and we need to fix. So I mean, as far as loose, so let's say if we get to the stage where we can remember our dreams more and they get more specific and we want to move into lucid dreaming. In that category, maybe a few years ago, I read up on stuff like this, and they said things like if you're in a room while you're awake, flick light switches or look at, I guess, clocks and numbers and look at your hands a lot. And it's only worked once in my life. One time in my life, I had a dream where I looked down at my hands, and it was almost like I was blinded by the sun. I couldn't quite look at my hands without it hurting. And then maybe for a minute or so, maybe 2 minutes, I was aware of the dream and I knew I was dreaming and I could control things. But that is literally the only time in my life that I was able to get that. So are there things that we can do once we start remembering our dreams and stuff like that? Are there things we can do to dial in on that lucid dreaming?
Yes, and I typically will tell people in my classes what you can do is, use Sunday afternoon to do this. And instead of working crazy amounts of hours on Sundays like we usually do, take the time, go to bed, set your alarm, and try to wake up during that REM phase, which is, a night every 90 minutes you're having a dream. You go from alpha to delta to theta, and it's in that REM stage that you start dreaming, right? And so, in about that hour and a half, set your alarm and wake up in it. So what's happening is you're making yourself become aware of when you enter into REM, right? And then throughout the day, throughout your day, you start telling yourself, I am going to lucid dream. And when I'm in the dream, I will know I'm lucid dreaming because I will look at my hand. I will see my hand and I will know I'm lucid dreaming. And you begin to give yourself specific instructions. And then, and it may not be tomorrow, and you probably had it once in your life because you're focused on other things. My focus is on dreams. That's what I do. I'm in business, but I'm in the business of dreams, right? So, but you're not. And most, if you're a car dealer, you're not. And if you're just not. But if you take the time, to make this like a part-time job of yours, because why? Because there is a place where you are specifically guided and given direction that will make your schedule and your business streamlined. It will streamline, and it will give you, and here's the deal, it'll even tell you who not to do business with. It will reveal agenda.
Interesting.
And not only that, it will also remove blocks out of your way that when you're trying to manifest something and you're believing in something enough to be able to bring it about, and a lot of times we can't, right? It's like it just will not manifest, and because there's a block there, and dreams can even hone in and go in and tell you where that block is, and we call that inner healing, right? And so I had a client in my group who had this dream, struggling with, struggling with rage, nicest person I've ever met, but then there was this part of him that just was like really angry with his family. So that he has a dream, he comes back, he goes, okay, I have this dream. And the whole dream is taking place in an amusement park, but there was one part of this amusement park that was locked off. But when he peered in the window, there was nothing in there. He thought maybe there was supposed to be some construction or something, but at this amusement park, there's nothing in there. Well, there's some other parts to the dream, but what that told me was that amusement park is his brain, and there's a part locked off. And so we need to, let's go in and look at where that part is, and we're able to guide him through, okay, when part of the dream had to do with a girl who he was naked with in the dream, and then she, didn't want to be with him anymore. Okay, well, then that tells me something. Who was the first girl that you exposed yourself and was transparent with that rejected you? Sure enough, 7 years old, her name is blah, blah, blah. And we're able to go in and talk about that, bring it to the surface, because that was an underlying trigger. It was a trigger point for this person, right? And we can even go in and look at blocks that will help you get to the next level.
And all that, I mean, it sounds amazing, but also kind of spooky in a good way. And as you were describing this, what was going through my head about that was just that, we all do things that to keep ourselves healthy, right? We eat right, yeah. We exercise, we take our car into the shop. I mean, we all should also take care of our mind as well as our body. And it sounds like a lot of people who aren't aware of their dreams, or people who aren't aware that they should be improving this dream skill, it sounds like a lot of people are missing out on the insights and all the on the trial and error. And it sounds like a lot of people, especially us entrepreneurs, could shortcut years or maybe even decades of mistakes, frustration, lost time, aggravation, and all that good stuff. And so if someone's listening to this and they like what they hear, or even if they're just a little bit curious and they want to know more about this dream stuff, they want to know more about you, Amy, where can they go to find out about all of this?
Well, you can join me on Facebook at Amy L. Coelho, and my public page. I don't have any more room on my private page. And go to my website, amycoelho.com. You can click on the Learn tab, and we've got our Dream Circle mentorship group right there. And we also have eyes2see.com. That's eyes, the number 2, the letter C.com. That's our dream journal. It's an online dream journal. Go in there, start recording your dreams in there. put even just the tiniest bit, record even just, feelings. And it's a spiritual journal. It's not even just a dream journal. It's a spiritual journal. Keep your thoughts and what's going on in the mornings, spend some time and go do that. And then if you have trouble with a dream, you can click submit. My dream team, we've been together for many, many years, and they will help you interpret that dream. It's actually a research project. We know that God is speaking to you individually through dreams, but what must he be saying to us collectively? We micro-proved our theory with the Dallas shooting. We knew the time, the place, and the city that shooting was going to happen. But if we called the FBI and said, hey, we had a couple of people who had a dream about this shooting, FBI would have profiled us and hung up on us. But what if we had 241 people who had that dream? Now would they listen?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's our research project. So go in and champion with us. Keep your dreams in there. Submit it, because when you pay for that dream interpretation, that's what helps us pay for our research project.
Cool. And how much is a dream interpretation for you these days?
I think it's $19, and you have the opportunity to keep going back and forth with the dream interpreter. So they're going to interpret the dream for you and give you some advice and stuff.
Cool, and yeah, I mean, if especially for us people who are not necessarily employees, or might have high stress or need to make these decisions,
Yeah.
$19 in order to solve even a small problem that prevents us from
Yeah.
losing $1,000 or causes us to make $10,000. I mean, that is
Right.
for sure a bargain, even if it is kind of weird and maybe what people aren't used to. I mean, everything that you've described today sounds like this is something that literally every human being alive needs to pay very close attention to.
Everybody dreams. No one's talking about it.
And they need to. And I mean yeah, and the thing about all this dream stuff is, I mean, I'm not just here just to listen to some facts and figures. I mean, I'm going to be applying this myself with the dream journal and the meditation and the Sunday afternoon naps, so that I
Awesome.
can get back to not only remembering my dreams, getting them more specific, but and then also
Yeah.
controlling it and replaying and reliving the dream so that I can change the outcome and get those breakthroughs. So that is amycoelho.com, and that is on Facebook, Amy L. Coelho, and that is eyes number two letter C.com. Thanks so much,
Dot
Amy, for
org.
being .org, sorry, eyes2c.org. So thanks for being on the show today, Amy, and sharing all your unique and clever insights about dreaming. I really appreciated you being on here.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Please go right now to robertplank.com/iTunes and have yourself a wonderful day.